Hey, this is Jordan Daniel Chesney. I'm going to talk today about how I made The Alliance, a little short film. And I'm going to talk about three things. One, long shots. The Alliance has a minute and a half long shot, so we're going to talk about how I did that. Two is really storytelling in general, specifically for AI storytelling, short film type content. And three is going to be about InVideo, the platform I created this on. And a big shout out to InVideo because they commissioned me to make this, and they said, hey, make a film on our platform, exclusively on our platform. And that's a great opportunity. That's a great offer. A lot of platforms don't do that. They want you to pay to post type of thing. InVideo is quite the exception. So I can't say enough about their people and their approach to partnering with filmmakers, AI filmmakers, and giving them a lot of respect and a lot of room. They said, make whatever you want. So obviously this is what I made, and I'm happy about it, proud of it, and they're happy with it too. So yeah, big shout out to InVideo. Can't recommend them enough. Definitely give their platform a try, and you'll see some of the great benefits to using their platform as we go through this tutorial. So let's get into it. All right, The Alliance. Okay, so the first thing everyone is going to want to know is long shots. So what you can see here is my timeline. And this shot is 1.5 minutes long. And as you can see, there are cuts. But you don't see the cuts. So how do you do a shot like this? It just keeps going. And do it so that you don't see these cuts. So a few things to keep in mind, but one thing that we'll talk about first is the beats. Because to get a long shot, you can't just, I guess you can do whatever you want, but for me, the point of a long shot is important. To just do long shots is, I don't know, it's kind of a pointless errand to run. To do a long shot because your story is better, if told in one seamless shot, then do it. Don't let anything get in your way, do it. And for me, the long shot is important in this film because the ending is so manic. And so to make something that's crazy and visceral and manic hit, to me, you should precede that with a lot of patience. And that's pacing, right? That's the essence of how do you pace your stories. So long shots, they can, just like quick cuts, they serve your purpose. So I knew this was the image that I created. And I used, I think, the Reeve model to create this, and then a lot of Photoshop. And so I had this concept. This was the image that encapsulated the concept. And so this is all I started with. Just started with one image, and I went into InVideo, and I dropped this image in here. And so the first question I answer with my concept is, who is this wolf looking at, right? And I think that's how a lot of stories start, is you get one image, you kind of fall in love with it, and the story starts to unravel. And so when dealing with these long shots, you're answering questions, in my opinion. That's what you're doing. You're answering questions. And so I want to know what this wolf is looking at. I could just quickly pan the camera over, but again, it's not going to serve the context of the ending, being that it's fast. So I remembered this movie, It Follows. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's a pretty crazy film. And there's this moment in It Follows where I think we're in a school, we're in like a college of some sorts, and the lead character is unaware of the threat, very, very slowly walking toward them. And the camera is on the character, and it just very slowly pans over. And as it's panning, it's kind of already established that this threat walks very slowly toward the victim in the film. So as the camera starts panning, something bad is happening. And as it keeps panning, it starts provoking you because now that you know we're going to look at something, the filmmaker is basically saying not yet. And so that kind of racks your nerves with what? Show me, show me, show me. And so to me, the entire first half of this film needed to rack the nerves. It needed to just slowly torque up the tension until it's snapped. So that's the benefit of the long shot is find the purpose that you want your shot to serve. And then you can sustain that through the technology. So did this a couple ways. One, I came in, I took my single shot, and I just did a simple prompt, obviously, like the wolf is breathing, panting, trying to catch his breath. I did explain what is being seen here because it is a bit of an oddity. It's not normal. So anything that's kind of unusual, it's good to explain it in the prompt. You know, I could just say sheep grazing in the background, but I had to say, you know, that the wolf is wearing the sheep skin like a coat and articulate that. And then I said low to the ground pan so that we got a lot of the grass and the sky. And what I did was I got a shot. I did every take you see in any of my films, it's like the 100th take. I think it, you know, maybe the 70th take, something like that. Anybody who can get a take in one, you're a magician, or, you know, or you're trying something very simple, one of the two maybe, or you're lucky, one of the three. But it takes a lot of takes to get these things. So let's go over to InVideo, and it's this take, I believe, right here. So as you can already see, I'm on my 97th run. So there's 97 runs here, and there's 4 takes per. So I've already genned 400 times by the time I get to this, right? And that was all kind of like iterative. I was thinking about the idea. I was just using this image and throwing it around and seeing what happens. But on this particular take, and you can see the wolf stares intensely, never blinking, and pants rapidly and aggressively. Now let's watch this take. This isn't the take I used, but this is how I got the take I used. So I was like, okay, the camera moves. It doesn't stay stationary. I didn't want that. But what I was also trying to do is I was trying to establish what does the land look like. And a lot of that just came through iterations. I just explained that the camera pans, it continues to pan very slowly past the church. Once the slow pan starts, it does not stop or rest, but instead the pan continues to pan consistently at a consistently slow pace. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to essentially establish a pan that doesn't rest in 180 degrees. Because I want a really slow pan. So I don't want a 15-second pan. I want a 30-second pan. I want it to be really slow. But Seedance kept giving me essentially a 180-degree pan, right? It kept trying to establish that. So I thought, okay, well, what I can do is, as soon as I find the landscape that I like, the church that I like, I can come in here, and I saw that. Let me just pause it and see if I can just come over here. I saw this and I thought, that's perfect. This is perfect because, you know, the sun is in the right spot. The church is perfect. The landscape was exactly what I wanted. This is exactly what I was hoping for. And, you know, just iteratively got that. So what I did is I took that image, this still frame, and I extracted it. And then I kind of cleaned it up a little bit in Photoshop. Every single thing I do with an image, it's always pretty heavily touched up in Photoshop. And then I came back in here, and let's just reference this super quick. Then I came back, this is 98.2. Just want to give a little shout out to InVideo here. Simply labeling your clips, the 98th run, 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, that is brilliant. I can't tell you how many times when you're editing hundreds of clips and you're downloading and you're previewing and you're, which one did I watch? Which one didn't I watch? Which one did I download? Which one didn't I download? Just simple numerical values help us to understand that. So please, Runway, Kling, Free Pick, everybody, Magnific, please, everybody, start labeling your clips in some sort of simple numeric value so that it's easy to understand what we've previewed and what we've downloaded therefore what we haven't previewed and downloaded. We need that, okay? There's too many clips for us to keep track of what we're doing. So in video, very nice, loved it. Okay, so then I took that clip and, sorry, I forgot what that clip was that I named. All right, it's 98.2. All right, so 98.2 was the winner. Now let's come in here and take a quick look. So 98.2, as you can see, I've got now my start frame and I have my end frame, which Seedance, I'm using Seedance, obviously. Seedance is an Omni tool, so you can put in like 12 images, 3 videos, 3 audio clips. You can put in tons of assets. And the Omni tools have essentially made all frame-to-frame video model tools just completely outdated. That's over. I use almost exclusively Omni tools now, which is Kling and Seedance. So now I have my 2 frames. So the reason I wanted these 2 frames is because I want to control the pacing of the pan. So the prompt stays relatively the same. The wolf stares intently, never blinking, and pants rapidly and aggressively, severely out of breath. The sheep in the background walk around and graze. We linger on the wolf as he stares and pants for a long time. This kind of prompting right here, the reason that I do this is because I want the camera to stay in place for a moment. I don't want the camera to immediately start panning, because this is how I'm determining the pacing of when do things happen inside of the frame. You want something to happen for a longer period of time. Describe what's happening in that moment for a longer period of time. Let's say you want to linger on somebody and nothing's happening. Well, then just describe how the person looks and feels, and say that we take a moment and absorb just how sad this person is, seeing the sadness in their eyes, understanding the pain behind what got them here, which we are soon to discover. Whatever kind of floral language you can use to keep the video model considering a moment is at hand, that's great, right? The wolf continues to stare intently, never blinking, panting rapidly. See, that's redundancy. I've already said it does that. So I'm trying to get the camera to stay still. Fast, short breaths, as though he's severely out of breath. And then the camera remaining in place, low to the ground, very patiently, very, very slowly, begins to pan towards the right to reveal the sloping grass hillside, the sun in the sky, and the small old church. The camera continues to very slowly pan past the church. Once the slow pan starts, it does not stop or rest, but instead the pan continues to pan consistently at a consistently slow pace. So I did this, I think 3 times, and it just kept like panning and then resting. And so I was like, well, that doesn't work. I don't want to do like pan, rest, pan, rest, pan, rest. I need it to go. So what I did was I thought, well, what if I throw that image into Photoshop and just add some motion blur to it? And that's what did it. And it, all you have to do is put a directional blur on there, and that kind of satiated the need to keep going, right? So here you can see this has motion blur, right? So you can see the church and the environment it's blurry. It's in a state where the camera is in motion. So your images are important because your images are speaking. And if you put motion blur, directional motion blur in an image where there's a slight ghost towards one side where it's moving away from, Seedance, Kling, these models, they're going to pick up on that. It's very intuitive, especially if you anchor that pictorial information with your language and your prompt. So again, like, how do you get these long takes? This is all part of it, right? So then, with that extracted frame, I got this. Obviously, I had to change the breathing a little bit because he's breathing at a different rate. Nice and low tilted kind of shot because I said low to the ground. Did you see that? Did you see how we just cut? That's exactly what you want. You do really want, at least with this type of thing, where you're panning and you want the camera to keep going, you want just like a hard cut because that's going to give us gold next. Okay, so next it came to shot number 2. So I tried this a couple ways. I tried going into Seedance, and let me move my controllers quickly over here. There we go. And if we come over here, I'm going to select video, Seedance, reference to video. So with reference to video, I can put in 3 audio files, 9 images, and 3 video clips, right? So what I did was I did try to take the video file and then an audio, a character sheet, and say, okay, here's my character, here's my video file, extend this video and reveal this character. But I didn't have enough success with that. Now I'm going to keep trying that because I suspect that that will work. But I also wasn't kind of like in love with my character. I was like, I guess I like this character, but I'm not sure I like this character. And that's just a clear indication that you don't like the character. So I did think, okay, well, forget it. I'm going to come in here and Seedance. This is essentially, I believe, this is essentially reference to video. This is what I'm going to click on now is reference to video, but they have the extend button. Now, extend, I believe, is maybe just some of their backend, like it takes the video and there's some sort of command that they've put back there that says extend from the end of this clip. Because it's the API obviously functions as a model that can do that, but I haven't seen this in Runway. Don't even see this in Dreamina. So the extend feature, I was like, oh, great, I can extend my clip. I'm just going to do that. So I threw it in here and I just said extend. Now, I have noticed there's a little bit of a problem with genning in 1080p with a 235:1 aspect ratio and then trying to extend that 1080p. So NVIDIA did say that they didn't experience that problem. I suspect it's because I was in 2235:1, or on here it's called 21:9, same thing. And it probably works for everything else, extending clips of 16:9 and 1080p. However, I kind of don't think that you should be working in 1080p with Seedance because it's so expensive. So, I mean, I do think that if you want to get something good, you should just probably try to go in 720p. And then once you have your cut, just use Topaz, Astra, Starlight 2.0 and 2.5 to upscale your clips. It does an incredible job. I think arguably, in my opinion, it's better than getting a 1080 native clip from Seedance to just do 720p and upscale with your final choices. And the proof is in the pudding. You can decide for yourself, but that's exactly what I did here. You can see how it turned out. I believe it turned out really nice at 4K resolution, but that was all upscaling from 720p. The benefit is I could burn through, 3 times as many credits. I could burn through clips without consuming 3 times as many credits, excuse me. So if we come back here and we take a look at this clip, we got 106.1. So what I decided to do was just say, okay, to me, this is how AI filmmaking works, is you have to negotiate. You have to be very open. If you have an idea, great, but that idea has to be malleable. You have to be willing to be flexible with your idea. Maybe it expands, maybe it shifts, maybe it changes. So I go into all of my films with this tenor. Like, I have this idea, but I'm open to things changing because I'm open to the technology responding to what I'm trying to give it. So I thought, okay, why don't I just prompt this guy in here instead of put the guy in as a character sheet? And I'm going to try to discover the character through Seedance. So that's exactly what I did. I came in here, 106.1, right here. So let's take a look at this. So this is my initial clip that I put in. I put in one clip, as you can see, 98.2 MP4, and I just said the camera continues to slowly pan past the church to reveal a Caucasian man, a Caucasian male farmer, far, far away in the distance, crawling on his stomach away from us. A trail of blood lines the grass, extending from his wounded leg, shredded pants leg around the wound, towards us, as though He'd been crawling away from us for a while. The camera comes to a gentle rest on the man. Static shot, long shot. So again, redundancy and clarity. He looks back at us briefly as he slowly but surely continues to drag his body away from us. Even though he is far off in the distance, we can still see that his leg is very bloody and wounded, and he is unable to stand. Faintly, we can hear his heavy breathing, exhausted, as he tries to crawl away. I should probably zoom in a little bit here so I can read these prompts a little bit easier, and so can you. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, simple prompt, straightforward. I won't really talk a lot about how I prompt too much because it does speak for itself. I don't use LLMs when I prompt. I just speak immediately what I have to think and say. I find that that's a better way to learn how models respond to words. If you use LLMs, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but I am saying you're not going to learn quicker. You're going to learn slower, and you're going to blame the LLM if you get a bad video gen sometimes. So I do think there's a real benefit to trying to brush up on your writing skills when trying to make good gens. Okay, so let's take a look at the result. First of all, let's just take note that we're starting on a motion blurred video clip, which is our last frame. Let's take a look at this clip and just quickly compare it to the last frame we put in. You see? You see how good that is? Now, I say the camera continues to slowly pan and watch. That's seamless. That's what you want. You want the thread to be seamless before you can get it in there. And as soon as I saw this clip, I was like, I love him. This is great. I love his blue clothes with the blue sky. It's like, I didn't even conceive that. That was all, I was like, this is perfect. The wound, you see how you can see clearly that he has a wounded leg right off the bat? This was the shot. You see, that's all I needed. And the good thing is now this shot, because I say, as he tries to crawl away, that's the ending action inside of my prompt. And so right at the end of this clip, he's mid-motion. So that's going to really help. If everything is completely still, actually that doesn't help with threading shots together. Motion in the camera, motion in your subject, those things are going to be helpful. So I took that clip in, and here's where we really get down to like the first cut that will be principled out. So if we take this, I've got some color correction on here, but as you can see, I've only got one, right? So if we look at this clip, here's all I did to this clip. That's it. On, off, on, off. So Seedance doesn't honor the lighting and color integrity 100%, but I would say it honors it 99%. It's almost perfect. It's so very slightly off. So if we zoom in here, let's take a look at this. This top clip, if I'm going to move this up, this top clip is this long. This bottom clip is this long. So extending your video doesn't give you a one-for-one start and end frame. Very, very cleverly, it gives you two overlapping frames on either side, which is, that's genius, right? Because now you have 4 frames to kind of go, where did this start? Which means the camera action starts really on the 3rd frame. The picking up point starts on the 3rd frame, which is great because when you're threading things together, that first frame, maybe even that 2nd frame, are usually kind of like sometimes rife with a little error of some sort. You know, it's kicking in. It's kind of like, yeah, right? So it overlaps right here in the center of these 4 frames. So because of that, and that's a pattern, that's a consistent pattern. I can go, okay, cool. Here's the 2 shots. I was like, oh, it's almost perfect. Like in terms of the motion blur, that's really what's important. In terms of how is the camera moving, like the movement is great. Like you can't tell. right? The camera, the motion of the camera, perfect. So it's really just that last 1%, which is, okay, the greens and the grass don't have as much luminosity, and the sky is also, it's just basically a little less bright. And because it's less bright, the colors shift slightly, because obviously color is made of light, or light is made of color. And so here we go. So I just took this, I slapped this on, and that was it. I didn't even spend a ton of time on there because obviously it's not a ton to do. I just came in here. Let's see. None of that. I think I took a curve, right? So I took this curve, like just the slightest bit of brightness on the sky, so slight. And it kind of brings up just a tiny level there. And then what I came in and did is I took the greens, hue, just the hue of the greens. I put a dot over the reds because none of the reds need to change. But I did notice that for the green, it was slightly less, it had a little bit less yellow. So I wanted to take some of the yellow out. So that's why I came in here and I shifted this, the kind of like high end of the green, right when it gets into your aquas or your blues, right? And I pulled that down, which shifted the hue just very slightly. I think that's it. Let's just confirm. Yeah, that is it. That is all I did. I did a tiny bit of a color curve and I shifted the hue of the green very slightly. And as you can see, it's a slight adjustment, but now with that adjustment, you can't tell. Now, again, part of the reasons you can't tell is because the camera's moving. So the mind doesn't look for something to shift. If your camera like moves down to a shot and it stays still and then you cut there and then it moves to another shot, the mind immediately is going to start looking for things in that state of rest, right? So you want to think about, if you're threading shots together, you want to think about, how can I hide this? It's a magic trick. If you want somebody to look over here, then this other hand is your distraction hand, right? If the trick happens here, you distract them over here. If the trick happens here, you distract them over here. And so this magic trick is how you can get the mind to not look for the effect, essentially, that's happening. So let's just jump forward and I'll show you the rest of them, right? So he comes along, I did the same thing. I go, okay, great. I'm going to keep prompting this. I took this clip, 106.1, threw it back into Seedance and prompted the next clip to come out. And as you can see, 106.1, 116.63, took about 50 gens till I got, you see how his arm is moving? So we're not looking for a cut. We're actually paying attention to his body language here. Shift from one side to the next, right? That's the magic trick. I'm distracting the audience so that they don't look at the sky and the grass, which is where the cut is most noticeably discerned, by saying, look at this man. Look at the guy in the middle of the screen. Don't look at the clouds and the stuff. Now, if nothing's happening, you're going to look anywhere. You're like, oh, look at the clouds, look at the sky. Ah, I saw it, right? So you've got to give someone a point of concentration that is not where your cut is most evident. And again, now I'm coming in here and I'm doing the same thing, right? It's just a slight bit of color correction. I mean, that's not even color. That's barely, I would barely constitute that color correction. But that's all it took. Very, very slight. And then I prompt that, the man grabs the gun, rolls over on his back, revealing his leg. That becomes more prominent because, again, to me, this is my rule with storytelling, is you have to motivate everything. Everything has to be motivated. Don't do anything that you haven't first motivated. If you're going to cut, motivate it. If I'm going to move in on this guy, I have to motivate the audience to want to. So what would I do? What do I think would help motivate the audience as to want to move closer to him? For him to reveal his bloody leg so that I now want to go look at it a little closer and be like, what's up with his leg, right? I've established that he's hurt. Okay, we know he's hurt. I'm teasing that it's a kind of a vicious wound. Then he rolls over and he just shows it to us. He's like, hey, look at my leg, right? So I'm telling the audience, you want to see the leg, right? And so when the audience is like, I want to see the leg, I give them what they want. So I help them ask for the thing that I want to give them, and then I give it to them, right? I start moving closer. I'm establishing something that has already happened too. I'm reestablishing, like, there was a vicious attack already that took place here. So I'm reminding the audience now of how dangerous this wolf is by moving across the blood and towards the wound, towards the victim. Now, as we get closer, I establish his eye line. Again, I say he's looking off to the wolf because what this is establishing is he is still concerned. The wolf hasn't been neutralized. The threat remains. So I'm holding the tension, and I'm going to move kind of past the wound here. So again, I want you to see how I got him leaning up, right on the cut, right on the cut. This is so important. This is how you hide your cuts. You give the audience something to look at other than the empty frame that's static where, the colors shift very slightly, right? So let me take this 118.3. Let's go ahead and take a look at this prompt so you can kind of see, well, how do you make sure you're getting that? Every time I was like, that's the take. What was it, 186.3? Another great thing out here, you got outline. So you got all your takes like in a line here. So I can just come up here and go, okay, gray, it wasn't 186. When I'm talking, I kind of lose track of the numbers that I say to myself. 118.3. You can come up here and go, okay, 118. Here's my 118 line. And boom, I'm down here, 0.3. So it was this one. Let's take a look. One continuous shot. I started using this terminology because sometimes Seedance would cut. Seedance is a multi-cutting tool, so you can say cut to this, cut to that, cut to this, cut to that. You can cut like every second and get 15 different cuts, and there you go. You have your storyboard, which is another tool. Henry was just talking about this with VO. You can just put in a single image and say cut to this, cut to that, cut to this, cut to that, cut to this, and you can get video clips, very single second video clips that you can then turn into still frames and therefore storyboard images. To make sure that doesn't take place, I use this one continuous shot phrase. The Caucasian male farmer with a severely wounded leg, wolf bite. So now I'm articulating what type of wound. I move from, because if we're on a wide shot, I don't want the model to say, how do we communicate that it's a wolf bite? Maybe we need to get close to see that. So that's why my terminology for what kind of wound on a wide shot is going to be, we can sort of get a sense of this because I want to stay wide and only get a sense of something. But when we start to go in close, I want to be specific with the details of what we're seeing. Lies on his back, gun in hand, looking up into the sky, panting, exhausted, and trying to catch his breath. Static camera. Then, this is a really powerful word. Then, meaning show me this before showing me that. Then, as he lies there trying to catch his breath, the telephoto camera lens slowly begins to zoom in on the man. All right. Seedance doesn't know how to zoom. Neither does Kling. Seedance and Zoom, don't even get me started about VO, but Seedance and Zoom and Kling, they don't understand the difference between a telephoto lens zooming in and the camera moving in on a dolly track. They interpret that as the same thing. I can't stress this enough, guys. Please figure that out. Telephoto lens zooms are different methods of communication to dollying and moving your camera. So I wanted the camera to stay in place, but this is what I go back to when I say you have to negotiate with the technology. You can't be too like, I wanted it to zoom. This doesn't work. Seedance is stupid. It's like, just figure it out. All right. Just roll with it. Roll with it. Try to embrace the pain of it and the problems with it. And if you embrace it and you just roll with it, you'll discover something else that's great. Something else will happen and you'll be like, now I'm kind of glad that I went that route, or it went that route for me, because now this other great thing is happening and I can use this. This will help. This will work with me. So I just rolled with it. The camera remained stationary. It ignored all of that just threw it out the window. Only the telephoto camera lens zooms in. As you can see, I'm being super redundant, but it did not matter. As we slowly zoom in, he turns his head to the side towards us. So as you can see, right at the end, I say, as we're zooming in. So I'm saying that the movement is still taking place, and I'm saying an action is taking place at the very end of this. And that's what gave us this shot. It's doing everything except it's moving instead of zooming. But as we're moving, see, the camera is still slightly moving, and it is catching that there's a correlation between the camera moving or having a movement or zoom of some sort and his movement, right? The camera's moving towards him and he moves. It's getting this, and that's what I wanted. I wanted something. Now, here's the other thing. The other reason why I wanted to do this at this stage was because I wanted to see this guy's face. I don't know what this guy looks like. He's being invented as the shots come out. So I'm like, if he turns towards us, I'll be able to have information to give to Seedance to continue the shot. If he stays at a side profile the whole time and I get close to him, then I'm still going to have to discover what this guy looks like in the next clip because it's only side of his profile. But if he turns his face towards us, for one, I'm helping establish the story of the threat still exists off camera. And two, I'm also going to be able to take this shot and put it back in and extend to this one now. And Seedance is going to go, there's your character. Keep this character consistent. And what I have is I have the character's face and the character's wound and the character's full body in one shot with his prop. So you see what I'm doing? Like the ideal clip isn't just what's communicated into the story. When it comes to the technology, the ideal clip for me in this situation was all of these elements combined are included in, so I can give this clip back to Seedance and it will rectify all of these things. It will, take all of these things into consideration, excuse me. All of these things will be considered when doing the next shot, which means the landscape will be considered. I have a wide shot of my landscape. I have a close-up of my landscape. I have a wide shot of my man. I have a close-up of my man. I have his prop. I have his wardrobe. I have his wound. I have his face. So all of those things are, I would say, like, again, shot to shot, it's a matter of what you want, but that's what helps this to work. Now also take a look at how the shot slows down here. So it slows down, but it doesn't stop. So the camera does keep going a little bit. So now I can prompt, like, the man sits up and the camera pans over. And I say things like he sits up, he holds himself up on his elbows, looks down at his leg. Once he's looked at his leg, he begins to sit up and the camera slowly pans over to his leg to reveal a very vicious, wound. He reaches his hand towards his leg in pain, wincing. The camera then pans away from his leg up towards him to see him wincing in pain. And then he looks off camera, off screen, towards the left-hand side of the frame with a sense of anger in his eyes, disturbed by what he sees, frustrated. And again, now, because I'm ending on that, and the camera is kind of moving into that position, he's in the middle of breathing heavily, I get my next cut more easily. You see what I mean? And you can kind of see, like, back here, like this, there's a little bit of a tell here. See the colors on the grass? Let's do a little frame to frame. Bop, bop. See that? Probably should have spent more time on that. Right? Now, fortunately, I think that once I took this whole clip and I exported it out and I had one clip as an MP4, I threw it into Topaz, Starlight, Astra 2.5. I think that Starlight kind of fixed a little bit of that. I think that Starlight was like, I think it kind of reconciled a little bit of that. I can't prove that and I don't know that for sure, but I think that, like, it kind of did, because, like, if we look at the final with all of our grain on and everything, can't tell at all, at all, right? So the upscaler actually helped, right? And we'll talk a little bit about Starlight, but I go from this Master 2.5 to a 2.0 Starlight. And the reason being is this is my original clip. Now let me show you this. Okay, and then let me just finish what I was saying. Then I say, okay, his breathing comes to a controlled, slow pace as he locks his eyes, keeping them focused, full of anger, his anger turning into determination, his determination turning into a sense of focused rage, right? I get very detailed. I can read the prompt. And you see how his breathing calms and he's just staring. So this shot is just like the others. It's the principle is still the same. I am telling the audience what to want. Now, lingering on this shot a little bit too long, I love. Why? Because the audience is like, cut, right? The audience is like, show me what he's looking at. Go back to the wolf, right? I want to see the wolf again because I've delayed that gratification. So now I can give them what they want. Boom. And I hit them with the big music cue. But because that moment lingers, I think a little too long and I don't want to bore the audience, but instead I want to amplify what's happening in the audience's heart. Right here, you can see right here, this is where I bring in the music. Right? And by doing that, let's see. So you see what I'm doing? I'm saying, I'm agreeing with the audience. I know that that shot's going to be too long. I know that they want to cut. So I'm just going to say, it's coming, right? I'm going to assure them with something that's almost fun. The music, right? And in doing so, sorry, my screen got a little frozen there for a second. Anyway, in doing that, I don't torment the audience too much and make things what I would say like slowly paced. So that's the essence of the long shot. But back to the point of like, well, how does the long shot get more completed? It is, I think, in part with your very minimalistic, fine-tuned color grading. It couldn't be simpler, right? Like just simple shifts of color, of curves and hues and saturation and luminosity. Just very simple stuff. As you can see, the more important thing is how you're moving the camera. This was, other than this clip, this was image to image, right? But these were all just video and text. I put this clip in, and I used a text, and it used extend inside of in video, and I got this. And then I just did the same thing here, and here, and here, and here. I was just feeding the last videotape that I liked back in and using text. There was no more images. It was one video and text. The key is, and I hope that I've shown you that the key is, it's the magic trick of what's happening. Is there any camera movement and something to look at, like someone breathing or something happening or someone moving or the camera moving quickly? Is there anything like that that can help hide that so that the audience isn't expecting something, that they notice your cut as because they're expecting something? Now, cleaning up the cut, color, right? And finalizing, one problem does start to occur. And that is Seedance does get a little unsharp filter, right? That unsharp filter. Let me pull that on here super quick. Unsharp. This look, this unsharp mask. This look, this kind of look, right? It's a little bit in the Seedance model, where it just kind of makes it look globby and blobby and VHS-y almost, right? So this was the clip, and I think I don't even have any color on this. Yeah, nothing, right? But I was like, you can kind of see it gets a little unsharp masky. So I took this, I took this entire clip, as you can see here, the purple one on top, and I exported out this whole clip, threw it into Topaz Astra used Starlight 2.5 and exported it out, and I got this. Way better. Obviously, I did some color correcting here too. You know what I mean? I do add a little Gaussian blur, just 0.5 on Starlight 2.5, because it's just a slight bit too sharp for me, so I just blur it a little bit. But even this, I was like, okay, that's still a little globby. So what I did was I then took the whole clip and I tried to throw it into Starlight 2.0. And Starlight 2.0 does not export more than, I think, 18 seconds, which was a huge bummer. So don't hate me, but I'm in talks with Manji, who runs Astra. So I just hit him up and I was like, hey, can your 2.0 model actually export a minute and a half? And he's like, I don't know. Let me see. So he asked his team, and they're like, yeah, but we have to do it manually. Like, it's not available to the consumer to do that. We'd have to do that like for him over the weekend. So he was he's a great guy. And the Topaz team, man, they're so great. And so he was like, yeah, we'll do this for you and send you back the clip in 2.0. So I did get the whole clip in 2.0, as you can see here. And the benefit to the 2.0 clip is it's much softer. And that's really the great thing about Topaz 2.0 is it's much softer. So take a look at this. Look at that. I mean, it's a completely different type of shot. But for me, this is 2.5. This is 2.0. Now this is the original and this is 2.0. So you see how it smooths out the skin a little bit. It softens the whole image really completely and gives us just a more gentle look, right? Everything is more gentle, a little bit dreamy. But when your image is almost deathly unsharp masked, you want to counterbalance, I think, with dreaminess to get it to just be normal. So what I did was I took that and I didn't want it for the whole clip because it didn't serve, I didn't want this. It really was only the beginning here and the end where I was like, I want the 2.0. You see that? The 2.0 is just, it's a bit more even. I prefer what it did to the gradient and I prefer what it did to the wolf and to the sheepskin. Just at large, I was like, I do think I prefer this. So I want that hyper red blood. You know what I mean? I didn't want it to be too dark. Wanted it to kind of stand out like a sore thumb. And then at the very end here, again, just while I'm tilting up. So as the camera's tilting up, I'm just fading this shot over that shot so that you won't notice it. It's just a gradual fade so that by the time we get to his face, I mean, that's better. Like this has more like emotion, right? But this didn't remove the emotion to me. And that's what you got to be careful about on upscalers is they change your performance slightly. Like this and this are slightly, this one is a more intense emotion. So even before we release, I might want to just come here and I might even change this edit. I mean, that's kind of better, isn't it? You might be seeing me make it in the moment here. That might be better. And this is kind of what I look for. See, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not losing what's valuable. Because that doesn't look good to me. Even though the emotions are coming through, it's distracting me how bad it looks. It looks more like AI, whereas this looks more like film to me. So let's see what that looks like. And we'll put the film grain back on. Let's just see what this is. Yeah, let's maybe make something together while we're here. Yeah, great Premiere. Great job. Awesome feed. Playback performance. So right now I'm just looking at the performance. I'm not thinking about anything else. And it does, his eyes, his crow's feet, they do kind of read better here. So now that I'm like, okay, yeah, that works. Now I'm going to look at the surrounding greens and everything else and see, does it shift too much at the last moment and distract me? Am I seeing the magic trick? I think that's good. That might make the cut. We'll see. But you can see kind of, this is how, to me, this is your final process step. You've got to consider, how do I make this image look good without changing performance, and which model do I use? And that can help hide your cuts here. As we saw, if we're just looking at this, cut's a little evident right here. Very slightly, but not enough is happening here to distract us here. But fortunately, that was solved by Starlight 2.5. So there is more than one way to do it. If you want to put a vignette around your edge, that'd definitely hide some of those things, right? There's all sorts of ways, the world's your oyster when it comes to that. But this is how I got this 1.5 minute long shot. Started with frame to frame, then it was video, extend, and prompt language. The key was what am I having happen in the shot to keep the audience focused? What am I having happen in the shot so that the audience will want the camera to do something that justifies a long shot? And why do a long shot in the first point? That is to justify the massive shift in tone and pacing in the end of the film, so context. And I think that if you can have these elements in play, then people will like your long shot, because just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. And maybe you should do it, but now you don't know how. So this, I'm hoping, will help you understand how to do it, but also why you should do it, so that it can be a great shot in your film and be really epic. And then I use film grain. It's a free film grain pack, royalty-free film grain pack that I found, and I take 35 millimeter film grain and 16 millimeter film grain. I slap a 35% sharpening filter onto both, and I overlay them. That's not anybody worth their weight in salt with color grading is going to laugh at that approach, but that is the fast poor man's method of doing film grain. That's very quick and easy and provides, in my opinion, a satisfying result. Then you've got the rest of the film that, tons of mayhem happens. And in terms, I did the same principle here too. Like I got this shot as the last shot, and I was like, this shot's great. And then I took it and I extended it. Now I knew that I was going to have a problem moving in close to him here, right? Because I'd have to put in the reference image of his character to get it to be correct. Now I did that; it did work, but I did come to the conclusion. You know what? I don't even want to get close to him anymore. I think we need to go far away. So it did play into the problem with the technology moving back in close on him here. It didn't affect it because I ended up realizing, no, we need to go wide and we need to see a bird's eye view shot of the whole, see him lean back. And as you can see, like I knew I wanted the shot to cut here because of his line plus the score coming in at this moment that lasted this long. So I almost had everything I needed here, but I was like, I need an extra second. So I threw it back in and I just said, shot continues on seamlessly. And that's kind of it. And I just took that last minute, and that's what gave me my final moment. And this last shot too is, let's see, 245, 310. Yeah, it's like a 30-second shot. So by also doing this, you see how I'm justifying the long shots? I'm almost bookending my story with long shot, mayhem in between. So long shots, long takes, justify them, give them reason, give them motivation and the character. And I believe, I haven't even released this when I'm making this video, but I believe that if we do that, audiences will pick up on what we're throwing down. They'll appreciate it. They'll find it entertaining and engaging and enjoy the process of watching it and, the experience of watching it. And then you might have some gold on your hands, which I hope I do here, but it's all up to the viewer. So yeah, that is how I made the long shot. Let's talk about InVideo super quick. All right, here are the benefits that I found to InVideo. For one, you can make something like the Alliance with Seedance's API into InVideo. That to me is, that's such an important thing. That's paramount, to be totally honest. I'm going to personally be using InVideo just for that reason. You can't make this on Runway. You can't do it. You can't make this on Dreamina. Now, I don't know if this is going to get released and then everyone's going to come down hard on InVideo and start nerfing it and censoring it like crazy. I really hope they don't, because this is gold. This is what filmmakers want. They want to tell stories, and not all of them are PG and about, they're not Transformers, right? They're not just the action movies where the punches don't quite land. If you want to make something where the punch lands, where the throat is ripped out, where you MacGruber something, right? Then you need models that will allow you to do that. But just as importantly, you need platforms that when they API in, they allow you to do that too. And they should. They should. We're adults. We're not children, and we should be treated like children. We don't need platforms to be our mommies and our daddies and make sure that we don't misbehave. We need to take responsibility for ourselves and responsibility for the things that we make. InVideo treats you like an adult. And I can't stress this enough. That's enough of a reason, in my opinion, to go get an InVideo subscription and spend your money there. That alone is a selling point to me, the selling point to me. So I think that, stop the video, go get a subscription, I'm done. But in terms of some feature sets, again, I'm in my project. I created a project folder here. It's called The Alliance. You can have 20 projects and they all line up here just like tabs on a bookmark bar. Very convenient, because then you can tab hop between projects if you want. You can also close out projects, open multiple projects. You can have 4 projects open, 1, doesn't matter, right? Then this is my notebook. This is essentially where I gen. And I've got pages. So I can say, okay, great. I'm going to gen all my videos on one page and all my images on another. I can say one of my pages could be a scene. Scene 1. Here's all my gens for scene 1. Scene 2, scene 3, scene 4. But since this is a short film and it's pretty much one scene, I thought I'll just have all the videos in one spot. And I'll do image generation with Nano Banana Pro in another place. I did get, obviously, Nano Banana Pro censored a lot more than Seedance through their API with InVideo, but this was my original character, who I like a lot less. But yeah, so you can see, I genned all my images here. I genned all my videos here. Makes it very seamless to switch between. And the outline is just a moment of genning. Like, you had this prompt and you genned this many clips with that prompt, right? So this, and numbering it, again, I can't stress, so very helpful when previewing, downloading, because you'll gen these, right? And this one and this one will finish first, and these are still going. So you're like, okay, I don't watch them in here. I just immediately download them, throw them into my timeline, and I watch them there in context. So I'll download these two while these are still going. I'll make some conclusions, put them aside, maybe use was another one better. I'll come back here and both of these are done, but I can't remember which ones I downloaded and which ones I didn't, because I'm just focused on too many other things to remember all of these numbers. But I can just go into my project and be like, oh yeah, I downloaded, or into my folder and be like, I downloaded 171.4 and 171.2. I need to download 171.1 and 171.3. It makes it easy. It's just a very, very, very helpful way to relay where you're at. You know what I mean? And when it comes to making the alliance, again, I don't think you can make this anywhere else. And I have other films that I'm started making on their platform that I'd like to finish. So I really hope this doesn't get nerfed after this gets released, because this InVideo is a serious tool for serious filmmakers who want to make seriously hard hitting things. And that's not everybody, but that's definitely some of us. And this is the first time since generative AI has come out that I've been able to do that, because I don't work on Comfy or locally. I do everything on the browser. So I'm very grateful to them, and I do seriously hope that you go check them out and give them a shot. All right, thank you for watching. Till next time.